sounded good.
All right, going live. 3, 2.
Hello, we are live on YouTube Live. You are finding Through a Therapist's Eyes. We've got the man behind the curtain who's not behind the curtain over there, Mr. Neil. How are you today?
The man in front of the curtain.
He's in front of the curtain.
Good, just scrambling. Don't have my mouse. I'm like trying to reach and do everything.
All right, you
so,
look all contorted and awkward there for another minute. I'll introduce Mr. Adam Cloninger is with us, man. Welcome back.
I'm merch guy today.
He is merch guy. He's got
Oh,
the hat.
Hold on.
Got the cup.
Yeah.
Merch man, you got
Merch
to
man.
you got to do the alliteration to go with it.
Yeah.
Merch man.
Rocking it. Listen, this is the month in review. This is March the 30th, 2023. As I said, you said it was cool. I thought it sounded stupid, but
Yeah,
I'll say
fine.
sounded fine.
Sounded good.
Dude, it is so fun to type 033023 all day long in my progress notes. That's like fun. I get entertained by such things through the day. Anyway, we are doing the month in review, like I said, and we're going to be talking about the shows that we did, which were what? I Want a Better Self-Esteem. The second one is Don't Take Things Personally in Your Marriage. That was a fun conversation, I got to say. But probably the funnest one was what was intended to be a show on like people in recovery from addiction, recovering estrangements and things that have developed in their life.
All types of addictions.
Dude, did you hear us battling on the show?
No, I'm just wondering, was it all types of addiction or just something specific? Specifically or what?
Yeah, addiction,
Okay.
all types of addictions. But it was funny because we didn't even get to any of the content. Our conversation just kept on going and going and going
Well, that's a
on
good thing.
what is addiction. So the show got renamed. It's just, which is great because now my show prep's ahead a week, and that's awesome.
So you got another show on what is addiction?
That's
No.
That's what
You've
we
already
ended
done
up
what is
do-
addiction.
right.
Now you got
Another one on. Yeah.
dealing with addiction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I am correct in saying that, right, Neil? Like the whole thing ended up being what is addiction, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
I told
Yeah.
you I'd get confused on my notes, and I didn't
I
make
know.
any changes.
I'll update on the. I'll update it.
That's cool. Yeah, I appreciate that because I don't know if we want to do that next time or not. Because I'm excited about the next topic. I think it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, I know what the next topic is. Actually,
Sure.
it's nice being aware of it.
Should I put it out there to advertise?
Why not? That way
You
people
can.
like,
Yeah,
know
do we
what's
got to get?
been-
Do we have to get Adam on that one to get more firsthand experience?
I think we probably ought to get Adam on that one to get firsthand experience.
Okay. What are we talking about?
It would be what is or everything about womanizing. Womanizer.
Womanizing. Okay.
We just made him nervous as hell.
No, I'm not nervous at all.
All right, anyway, I didn't do my full introduction for the YouTube. Look, this is where you get, before the mics, before we turn it on, it goes on Spotify and various places you get the show. So a little bit of bonus content about womanizing and such. We'll fire up here. And really, we're probably about ready, I would think. Yeah? Okay, cool. Since I did a crappy introduction on YouTube, we'll get it better.
It's all good. You know, they come here for everyone loves the bloopers, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Ready to go?
So you like putting links to the merch on their?
We have it on the website.
Okay.
On the
Gotta go to
merch button.
therapisteyes.com, hit the merch button, and get a bunch of cool stuff. And it really, really does help us out. We need to get some sales on there so we can buy some new lapel mics we're talking about.
And buy a better mouse for me, so it makes my life easier.
And not live, just a mechanical mouse. Sorry.
Mechanical.
That was funny, right?
You ever want to say
That was pretty
meese?
funny. You can't.
Hmm?
You can't.
I know, but you ever want to say that instead of me?
No. No.
Why not?
Move your mic that way.
Move my mic this way.
That way. Yeah, you're kind of spacing it out away.
Okay. Oh, now it's gonna fall.
Okay. This is the excitingness on YouTube Live.
Yes.
All right, ready to go live with the show?
Let's hit it, man.
All right. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, March 2023 in review. We have got Mr. Neil, who is usually behind the curtains, out in front of the curtains. How are you, sir?
Hey, I made it. Almost through the week, so we're good.
Almost through the week. Glorious Friday next up. And Mr. Adam Cloninger is back with us, man. How you been?
Good, man. Good.
Been hanging out, enjoying this springtime weather we got?
Yep, I just moved the microphone. Is the volume still good? I'm hoping.
I think you're
Check.
good.
Okay, good.
Check 10-4. Dude,
Check,
that's
check,
like
check
10-4,
1 2.
check 10. Don't we do that before we start?
Yeah, but I moved the microphone, so I just making sure.
All right, this is where you get
calling
personal insights directly from a therapist in time in your car and personal time at home. We are talking about the 3 shows that we did in March, which have to do with the 4 shows.
We did 4 shows this month.
Well, I only got 3 to review.
I don't know. You missed a month.
Did I miss? I don't think so.
Okay, I added them. I added a week.
Well, you get 3 from what we did. You'll have to see what I missed if I did a football. But anyway, we got I Want Better Self-Esteem. And boy, it was a fun conversation on don't take things personally in your marriage. And the show that was the bombiest, the loudest, did we do the battle title, the panel battles about addiction? Did you get that?
Yeah, I got that one. No, I remember technical issues for self-esteem.
Oh, you were counting
That was the
one we had to
problem.
we
Yeah,
screwed up
because
and
it's
had to
been 4
redo.
weeks, but we messed up the
Is
first
that
one.
the one where y'all had to record it
Oh,
twice?
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Like I said, that was a good
was
exercise in rebuilding self-esteem after everything got
Yeah.
screwed up by me.
We were so happy with Neil that day. It was like
So-
we did the whole show, did all the way through. It got jacked up. It's never happened before, and we had to redo the whole thing. But
So it was like the best show ever.
because we did it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I meant the
The-
first episode.
The first one was actually low energy. Chris wasn't feeling good at the
Oh, I
beginning.
was dead.
So it was actually better we
dead.
recorded it because the second show was really good.
Yeah, I was very
The
much
second
dead.
time.
So 5-star reviews help us out a lot. We got the merch man over there today. If you see on YouTube, he's got the banging hat, banging cup, banging book, I guess. He's like a walking billboard today, this guy. But it does help us out to go check out throughatherapist's.eyes.com, the merch button, buy some cool stuff. Contact Through a Therapist's Eyes where you join us to interact with us. Through a Therapist's Eyes, Re-Understanding Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self is the book. But boy, I'm going to get the other book out on marriage.
When's it coming
You
out?
were a contributing factor to that, Adam.
Oh, boy.
Thank you for that, man. Last time we was hanging out, you're like, so, like, are you going to get it done this year? And I was like, the answer is yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes. So
I'm just keeping you from procrastinating because,
well,
I ain't gonna do it.
the resident procrastinator.
Yes.
Self-proclaimed. That is not a shot across the bow. I don't want to get email about that. Listen, I'm going to start us off with a current event, though, today, because we have yet again, in the States here, another mass shooting event. Now, dude, before the mics came on, Adam, you're like, you don't even know about Tennessee? How do you not know?
I mean, I heard some conversations at work. Back in the office, I heard some conversations about gun control and stuff. But I mean, that's kind of a
That's what we
something you
do. We
always
got
hear about, but I didn't.
these conversations and all. I told Neil, you were like surprised as well with Adam, but honestly, I'm proud of you, man, because getting inundated with news we are learning is bad. I think that we've learned enough about mental health and social media and the news outlets to be able to say that. So you must be, and you are in a good mood.
Yes, I am.
You are in a good mood because you didn't hear about this horrible news coming out of Nashville, Tennessee at the Covenant School, which is a private Christian institution where yet again we have someone who walked into the school fully armed. And Adam, I understand that 3 elementary school children got shot, as well as 3 adult staff members of the school. So it's just terrible. And I'm sure that y'all have known about this. I'm doing a current event on it to point out a different component, though, of this that is bothersome. Now, I'm not going to read it, but on my phone, I have had a personal friend of mine. He shared this texting interlude that he had with, I'm just going to say somebody he knows. And this somebody that he knows is texting about how this is a conspiracy and the police are planting a dummy decoy, how the shoes are different from when he was in the school to when he was outside of the school or
So
something.
this is
or
another
other.
one of those things like that guy that just got sued not too long ago about the other shooting.
Yeah. What's his name? That was big in the news.
The Rittenhouse one, or
No,
What shooting
The
I think
big
y'all-
podcaster that got nailed for
Yeah, I
making
think y'all talked about it during one
We
episode.
did.
Okay.
His name is just, I'm brain farting on it. I don't even want to say his
The other
name. though, because-
podcaster that mentioned that one of the shootings was
oh,
fake and-
Jones, Alex
Yes,
Jones.
Yeah, Jones.
Yeah.
I look. The current event to me is I do not understand where and how quickly we all go towards. No, I'm not going to say we all go. That some go towards conspiracistically thinking about horrific events just out of jaded, negative, sarcastic, hurtful. I think distrusting is the biggest component that people are going on, and I don't understand it. I'm going to make a call that needs to stop. It's ridiculous.
Is it maybe disbelief?
It's disbelief, distrust, and having some sort of political view about something. And what gets lost is the grieving of the families. With the Jones case, we saw horrible examples of that where people are literally being threatened, that they're making false claims about their own children. Like, do we not have some decorum in society that we respect people's loss and pain and horrific, tragic events?
No, we do not.
Dude.
To answer your question, we do not.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yes, no.
It's just
You
not.
did ask a question, right? I mean, so
Yeah, it's a current event that I'm taking that angle because I don't hear many people really coming down hard on that, and I wanted to come down hard on that because it hurts people's mental health, and it hurts all of our psyche for that matter. And it's on simple, stupid little thinking. In my interlude with my buddy, he was trying to say, like, I don't even know how to respond to this person. I'm like, well, first of all, as someone who got to me before, they can get to it. It's like you can easily get on there and digitally change somebody's shoe color. And somebody covered that in the news to correspond. Like, that's what happened. Somebody got on, changed the shoes, and then created this story or some I'm going to say bullshit like that. And what I said is, and they also kind of went on, like, well, you see that the strobes were already on. School was pre-evacuated. And I'm like, if there's an emergency, I'm going to pull any emergency button that, gets anybody's attention there. So, of course, it was pulled early.
Well, if you look at it,
it's just stupid.
They got in the school by shooting through the door with high-powered rifles. Like, how
Right.
does someone not hear that and realize, oh, I should pull an alarm?
Right. Immediately. It's an emergency alarm. So, look, just get some trust and have some pause. I mean, what are we, a day or two after this, and people are talking about a conspiracy with this event? It's just, we need to have better decorum than that. Let's work on that. I'm gonna get off of it because I'll get upset. I'm gonna take a drink of water. We're gonna transition to our game. Can we play our game?
Yes, we can play the game.
All right, so if you're new to the month in review, Adam shows up and he gives us 2 words. That's all Neil and I have is 2 words to decide what, I guess it's a current event kind of thing as well. Yeah. What other current event has been in the news that impacts mental health in some way? That's the game. So let's play. What you got?
All right, so I'm gonna try to make it a little fresh today. I'm changing the rules a little bit on y'all.
What?
Oh man,
I don't do well with rule changes when it
do
comes
well
to
with
games.
changes.
So this time I'm not going to give y'all just one word. I'm going to give you like 2 or 3 words or 3 words.
So now we changed it to 2 phrases versus 2 words.
it's just gonna be a couple words. But
how about a description of the article or the event?
No. But
Too much.
I'm gonna do a play on words, so it's still not gonna be absolutely clear what I'm talking about. And once y'all pick what the article, you'll understand what it means. So the two articles, one would be about natives and cowboys.
Ooh.
Or kings and trees.
Holy crap. That's just so random.
Yep. But again, it's a play on words. So
Kings and trees?
Kings and trees.
Natives and
cowboys. Or kings and trees.
I want kings and trees because I have no clue where you're going to go with that one.
I have no clue where he's going with that one. And I think that's why I don't want it. I think I want the other one, the natives and cowboys, because it just sounds fun. It's like a play on cowboys and Indians. And
this is
cowboys
exactly how I thought
awesome.
this would go too.
What's that?
I figured it'd be like that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
You called that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we gonna do, Neil? How do we play rock paper scissors? You try to convince me, I convince you. What are we gonna do here?
You're the host, so technically you could probably take priority if you want.
Yeah,
me to
but you're the
come with.
man, so you always take priority and tell us what to do.
Absolutely not. I am not.
Kings and trees makes no sense to me.
Or
I know, that's what
natives
makes
and
it fun.
cowboys.
That's what makes it fun. The unknown. See, this is a difference in our personality. I love the unknown of that one. He's like, I want something I think I know what's going on with it, and so there's this comfort level that he wants to.
No, that's not totally true. I love surprises. So in proving that, I'll go with your notion that we'll go with surprises. I don't like things to change, but I like spontaneity.
Do you like how I did that? So he sided with me.
Oh,
that was pretty
so
slick, right?
Psyching me out here.
I don't like things to change, but I like spontaneity.
I know.
Okay.
That's I'm one to figure out, buddy.
Yeah.
We can go on that.
He's an enigma wrapped in a
So
riddle.
that means we're going with kings and trees.
Kings and trees.
Okay, remember I said it's going to be a play on words, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the Mexico government has announced a 22% reduction in the monarch butterfly population, and they attribute that to deforestation. Kings, trees, monarchs, kings, trees. So that's what-
Interesting.
nice.
So I wanted to
Brilliant.
throw you off by doing that.
Brilliant.
So basically, the officials say that it's because of deforestation. There's also a guy that's he started out doing research and doing some nonprofit stuff for monarch butterflies. His opinion is it's herbicides. But my point is, it's environmental stuff that goes on. I don't think humans. I think we'd be naive to think that we actually understand what's going on in an ecosystem. So,
Right.
now the deforestation thing, they said that, and they didn't give a whole lot of detail. I'm a little confused on that, but they basically said the deforestation has tripled. They didn't really give a time frame or how they determined it tripled, but the rate of deforestation has tripled
In Mexico.
in Mexico. So, with that in mind, I'm thinking, people might be stressed out about, environmental change, herbicides, what kind of effects it has on people. Are we eating stuff that's in our food? Deforestation, environmental change stuff. So, what do you think?
Well, it's interesting that it works well, honestly, with unplanned, the conspiracy thinking that people have. Before we dive into it, just for a minute, though, I mean, it's funny when you say Mexico. I was hoping you'd go where you didn't go. There's a cool story out about the Mexican president, like supporting or putting out their support in like a mythical, what was it, swamp monster type thing. It wasn't a swamp monster, but it was like a troll kind of.
Capricara or whatever.
Chupacabra.
What is that? I think so.
It's a mythical dog-like beast that will basically like suck the blood out of goats.
Yeah.
And so basically chupacabra means like goat sucker. And the funny thing is there's a movie on Netflix called Chupa, which because of the word they took, it basically is suck in Spanish. That's the name of the movie because they called it Chupa.
Is it like a vampire movie?
No, it's like a kids movie where it's like the chupacabra is like this neat little fantasy animal that a kid finds and they become friends, I think. But basically they call it chupa, which is just suck in Spanish.
You don't know much about crypto creatures, do you?
I don't
Man, we
at
could do a
all.
whole show about
Yeah,
cryptos.
I actually have a
Cryptoids?
friend that
Oh, yeah, I
wanted to
love
do a
crypto
crypto podcast. Actually, what's funny is no, this wasn't that. This was about something that you had to appease so that you could plant your beans and make a good harvest. And it was a troll-like figure or whatever it was. But anyway, we are totally diverged around off of the topic of, I don't know, Neil. Yeah, I think that people do freak out about climate change and really have a lot of emotions about what this is and what this isn't, how it operates, how it is, and a lot of fear is used about it either way. It's unfortunate that it turns into an agenda piece, but how do people handle in their mental health fears, about this?
I mean, I think it goes back to the fear comes in because of the unknown. Like you've said, one of the biggest issues is you don't know what's really causing it. We know,
Right.
I mean, you could almost say that assuredly that man is the reason there's problems, but what caused it, we don't really know. I mean, could it be the Mexican cartel taking on the avocado groves and spreading too wide, and
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
that caused it? It could be herbicides because that is a known problem. You're spraying nearby things, you're killing the milkweeds, which then causes that's what monarchs use. So. But the unknown, going back to the conspiracy theory, I think that's what drives all these theories and thoughts, because there's a fear and you're trying to rationalize what's going on.
Right.
Oh my Lord, our planet is 2 degrees hotter because of cars. Well, never mind, we have 7 billion people now. And have you ever been in a room with like 5 people and the room just gets naturally 10 degrees hotter?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, right? But no, I think it's correct. It's that fear, trying to rationalize what's going on, and you get a lot of conspiracy theorists trying to figure out in their brain, they're trying to justify or figure it out. And that's a great sign of like what goes on in mental health when it's a bigger problem than you can rationally figure out.
And the other piece of that, just like we were talking about, that we didn't plan it, but the two stories do work together, because the fact of trust in your fellow man, the ability to trust, things that science is teaching us. Because I listen to a lot of podcasts on science, and there's a lot that we do know that's out there, but do people trust what we have learned and what we do know?
But do we really know? We really don't know. We just
Well,
think there's theories, but we really don't know.
we
for sure.
have some things that we know, and we have some things that we don't know. And like most things that are in science, when you know very little, it looks really solid. When you learn more about it, it breaks up, and there's gaps in what you know, and new questions come around. So the more that we're learning, the more that we ask questions, the more that we feel like we don't know, but we actually know more. That's just science. That's the way it works.
I think
you know,
you start
and-
realizing you don't know anything.
Well, for real, when you start learning a
Yeah.
lot and you start asking really deeper questions, dude, there's nothing that we know about the human psyche, if we want to go to that, right? We've learned a lot about the human psyche, but there are so many more questions, and, in the weeds that we get with it, which is good, because then we learn more information, but that triggers more questions, and the more answers that get to those questions, new questions emerge, and we just learn, and that's just, we keep on learning. I mean, when we first started this venture in psychology field, we thought drilling a hole in the forehead of your head and scraping around brain tissue was going to relieve schizophrenia.
Wait a minute, we don't do that anymore?
We don't do that anymore.
Okay.
And there was a big event in Nashville. You're learning a lot today.
Okay.
So yeah, it are these things, these mental health, emotional realities, interestingly, do come into these topics that you wouldn't think are, but there's ever present emotional reality that we're dealing with.
It'd be awesome if somebody did like a study and found out that drilling a hole actually did help. That would drive Chris insane.
It would shock me.
Well, they
Get
do
it?
that.
Shock, ECT.
Yeah.
It would shock me.
Yeah.
They do that to relieve pressure when there's extra fluid on the brain. So I mean, it does help in some
Yeah,
cases.
well, there is that-
But the thing is, hole scraping around the brain is probably one of the bigger problems than drilling the hole. But
Yeah, and it didn't help schizophrenia. So let's go on to our shows and clip into episode 220. This is the one that we actually did twice. Why Neil thought we had 4 shows to get into. I thought we'd spend a little bit on the questions. The 3 questions of episode 220 that we posed for you to think about were, where does self-esteem come from? A. B, when did life damage your view of yourself, and how many times was that the case? And how do I actually build up self-esteem process? So the second time was better than the first time, Neil?
I think so. Like I said, it started off on a higher energy because, like I said, you were exhausted before the first time we recorded it. But I think it was also kind of cool knowing the conversations, and then the panel could kind of go through like what they talked about last time, and
Tori
kind of
actually remembered what she did.
exactly. Because I think the part she brought up again was the self-esteem versus self-confidence, which is a really cool thing to understand the difference between those two things. And so, I thought it was interesting doing it because we've never really done a show twice.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to
It's show
see the
practice.
difference. Yeah, exactly. Show practice. We're going to do those on Tuesdays, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Every Tuesday.
Negatory.
I'm pretty sure my wife would kill me if I have to leave the house for another night a
Yeah,
week.
I'm putting a veto on that one, even though you're the man who tells us what to do. Where does self-esteem come from? What do you think we covered with that? or these questions. We're go down the questions, Neil, and think about like where we were on them.
I mean, I think we talked about when it comes to the self-esteem, it was, the nature. I think nature has a lot of stuff I think we kind of talked about before. Nature is what can make or break your self-esteem. I mean, some people do have a natural tendency to be more resilient, depending on how they do it or how they perceive things. But nature, I think, really is a deciding factor on your level of self-esteem. And, because you talked about question 2, your life damages it. Your life is the nature that you're in. Sorry. Nurture.
I was gonna say, man.
Scratch that last 10 seconds because
were you
I was
here when we recorded the show?
my Polish kicked in
Either
and I got a little
time.
backwards. Yeah, either time.
That's awesome.
So nurture
yeah.
is a
Nurture
huge.
in
That's why you
nature.
kind of look at me like, huh?
I was waiting to pounce, man.
Nurture is a huge part of your self-esteem. That's what
Yeah.
I was saying, because it dictates so much of what you go through, how you learn to handle things, all those different pieces. So yes, nurture, not nature.
Well,
Which-
was it not come from survival too in itself? I mean, you learn. Okay, you become confident hunter or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Then you do something. It didn't work out so good. I need to be more careful on that next time.
Yeah, well, the things that you survive from actually would be part of the nurture. The nature nurture argument in the mental health field is when you have biology, genetics, like your body is geared in a certain sort of way. We are like physically wired, in certain ways that nature drives how you feel and how you operate and how you think and whatnot. That's where a lot of the science-based diagnostics come from and whatnot. On the other hand, you got this nurture. It's nurture meaning, your mother and father, family nurture you, so it's the social and emotional experiences. So if you're surviving from something, an event, running from a tiger, or dealing with a school shooting or something, that's going to be pretty profound in the way that you experience the world and yourself. And so it's nurture is everything social and emotional. And you're right. It's interesting because most things in our field have this interesting balance, right, between, the nature and nurture realm of stuff. And I was kind of pleased that the panel agreed with me that I don't think mostly a lot of times that the social is so much more important in this. And, when you look down on the long list of things that, people experience that affect our self-esteem. Adam, this is the second question. Like, when did life damage my view? I mean, think of how many of these things you experienced, right? High school breakups, middle school breakups, adult breakups, really breakups at any point.
Yeah, I'm dying.
And
I'm dying.
Yeah, it's painful.
Yeah.
Job loss, parents being critical, highlight that in a big way. Car accidents or police tickets. You should have heard John's story about the police ticket. That was hysterical. You remember that, Neil?
That was great.
Let's just say you'll have to listen to that episode 223 to hear how the police in some Florida county tormented a poor young John Pope. That was terrible of them. That's a teaser. You got to listen to the show. But moving on, one of life's many failures or perceived failures in parenting are. I just wrote our spouse as something that breaks into your self-esteem.
You could just say your spouse.
Just stop and say there. Facebook, social media, trauma, bullying, loss of a friend. I mean, it could go on, but losses of any kind. I mean, just can you imagine, Adam, like all these different things that influence your self-esteem over all those years?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the positive, we have equally as long of a list, but interestingly, we focus on what affects our self-esteem. We assume it's what hits us and what hurts us, and how does it take a hit, right? So it's happening all throughout your life, which led me to look at one of the places I think that we landed with that was. Isn't it normal, guys, to have a low self-esteem?
I'm not seeing that at all.
Right.
You're going to tell me how you came up with that?
I figured you wouldn't, actually. You wouldn't.
Him and I are kind of a point where nature does kind of kick in, because I think him and I have more of a optimistic personality, But yet, knowing life, there is the battle of bad things do happen. But I think it's interesting looking at this list. You didn't put anything on here that talks about how it could build your self-esteem.
Exactly. That's what I just pointed
getting a
out.
promotion, winning a contest, winning a game or a match, having the parents congratulate you on your straight A's, or
The opposite of everything on
right,
the list.
all the opposite. So it's funny how, because I just noticed, I'm like, you're saying how these affect our self-esteem, but that's all the negatives. Where's all the positive stuff that happens in a life? And it's kind of like, wait, is that kind of one of those things? Because when we look at our lives, the pain is more prevalent. So that's why the negatives stand
the
out
reality.
more. That's human nature. We talked about survival.
The pain is more prevalent. We need to write that down as a quote, to be honest with you.
That'd be a good T-shirt.
And make sure you're quoted on that. Because, if you think about a baseball game that you're playing in honor of opening day of baseball, yes, I got that in. I'm happy about myself. You don't think about the stolen base or the base hit or even winning the game when you're playing that game back in your mind. And we do the same thing when we play back the years of our life. We hit out and single out those pieces, those moments that were like pinpricks or big events that hurt us. and in the baseball game, we really focus on the error that we made. Oh, if I'd have just got an edge on that ball, if I took one more step before I jumped up, I would have been able to grab it or what. That's
Even statistically, they do that. I mean, they keep track of errors, but they also keep track of home runs and hits too.
right.
So they do both.
But where's the focus? Well,
They do both.
yeah, the focus can be on both. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I don't think that I noticed it too, Neil, when I was reading it. I think we must have had a brain flash together. I didn't realize that when we recorded the show, but
Both times.
either time. Dang, did we make that point, Neil? It's okay, man, that we did that. It's okay.
How's your self-esteem, Neil?
I came back. I'm still
You're here today, right?
Yeah, resiliency, man. But because I think that's because I'm like thinking about my kid wrestles, and you always have the bad matches. Like it's always like today. His high school went to the band contest and they got superior, which is like the best you can do in a contest, which is we're super excited about it. But honestly, he'll probably think about the winter concert that he messed up 5 notes on, and that's going to hurt him more. He's going to think about it more than his band doing super great today. It's just that weird nature that we look
think
at.
about both of them.
You might.
But here's my argument, Adam. I really think that it is true to say much more than we let anybody know or let on to that it is very, very normal for us to have a low self-esteem. If not for moments, then possibly chronically. We have doubts, insecurities, fears. We don't like to put them out there. We like to put them behind the mask that we're running. But if you get to know anybody close, you know your spouse closest, you know your kids, and you know your family members pretty close as well. And you know what makes them tick, what gets them, right? But the rest of the world doesn't see a lot of those things because we don't show them. So I really want to normalize this focus that we have on things that were hurt spots and hit us, because we all have them and we all have to overcome them. And when we learn to overcome them, we can get to where we land on building self-esteem, which is the focus of what we wanted to land on. But people feel like crap internally and don't let that be known. That's where I'm coming from, Adam. Does that convince you a little bit?
Yep.
I mean, we're not going to show it, but I always think of that lineup for high schoolers, where they line everybody up on the baseline of the gym, and they say anybody that's ever been, spit at, then take a step forward. Has anybody ever been told they're not pretty? Then some kids will take a step forward. Has anybody ever been told that they're weak? Okay, then you take a step forward, and you look back after all these questions, and like even the most popular kids in the school are like way on the other side of the gym, and everyone's like, "What the heck?" Like everyone is experiencing these shots that get delivered, and they hit you, they hurt, and you remember them. Even if you're stupid successful, the valedictorian smartest kid in the class is feeling like, oh, but I didn't get the 5.0. I didn't do well enough.
I should have got more college credit.
I didn't
When
get
I was in high school.
Miss
I should've done
Jones'
better.
AP class got me. I only got a B.
I should have been in college 2 years earlier.
Right. Right. It's ridiculous what we do in our heads. So, Neil, where did we land? Go on to, like, actually, how do we build self-esteem? I'm curious what you kind of remember, and I helped you out with a list there.
I mean, I think the
Oh,
one
wait.
thing-
Oh, no. Before you do. I'm sorry. Because I did forget to... I didn't forget when we did the show. Our conversation sometimes takes us into a different direction. And I guess I'm only going to do another honorable mention. I'm not going to talk about it as much again. But what we didn't get to talk about a lot is that biology part of what does biologically impact our self-esteem. That sounds weird, right? How does our biology, the genetics, that type of thing actually affect our self-esteem? We didn't get to talk about that at all, did we, Neil?
I think didn't we talk some clinically about how sometimes there's mental, your mental states or your mental, I don't know what I don't want to say disorders, but your mental health, state,
Conditions.
right? Conditions. They can help. They can change how your self-esteem is, because obviously if you're dealing with depression or stuff like that, it makes a huge difference. And I kind of talked about that, where my personality is different than my wife's personality, my kids, even my 2 kids. That biology of how I'm made up, I can handle things different, or I'll take things on differently. So while it might hurt my self-esteem some, it might hurt my one kid worse.
Right.
So biologically, I have a certain preconceived thought process, a preconceived notions or way that I handle things. Just like some people, when they get knocked down, they come back 10 times more successful. Where some people, when they get knocked down, they go into they hide in a hole. Yeah, exactly. And so that's that. I think, is that kind of where you're going with the biology? Your natural tendency to go one direction over another as you deal with either the good or the bad self-esteem. And when you do something good, do you take that time to celebrate it, or do you say, oh, well, then I still messed up on these other things, and you worry about that?
Sort of. I think more of it in the way of what we're struggling with these conditions. And we did an honorable mention through the show, and that's all we're going to do here as well, unfortunately. But a really good example, if you remember, we were talking with Victoria about the attention deficit, the ADHD reality that she shares openly, that she manages. Listen, your brain is wired and operating in a certain way where you're attentive to so many things at once that you can't be in the moment. And it causes all kinds of school behavior problems. Is the kid that's moving and hyper and won't stop talking, and the teacher thinks they're the problem child, or other people think they're weird because they're literally up out of their chair dancing around, or just totally drifted off daydreaming, not in the conversation that the person's trying to have with them, or only half there, and they get told that they don't care, that they're not a good student, that they're lazy, that they're stupid. And it's like, wait a minute, they have ADHD.
They got to be interested.
They got to be interested in and it's got to come in short doses. Like, classically, if a parent says, okay, Johnny, go pick up the sticks, come in and wash the dishes, and then go make your bed, he's going to go,
Sticks.
Sticks. I did sticks.
I put my stick in the bed. Wait,
Right.
hang on.
Put the sticks in the bed.
I did good. Sticks in bed.
I did. Right.
Me good. Stick in bed.
Right. He's going to go pick up the sticks in the yard, and there's no shot with the bed, no shot with the dishes.
And I think what you brought up too is that when you acknowledge that there is those things like ADHD and depression and those types of things, you have to be aware that you're battling those things when you have self-esteem issues and you're going through those processes. So
Right.
knowing that you have those can either help you process it differently to know, oh, here's what's going on. It's not really me, or this is what's going on. Or your parents or friends or significant others will know, oh, he has this thing going on that we have to be aware of. I need to do it this way. I need to handle it differently, because even with my kids who don't have those things that we know about, like, I still know that his personality is different than this for his personality, and you have to know how to handle it.
But that's the key. You set that up beautifully, and you didn't even know it. Here's one of my main... I don't think you
Your
knew it. Maybe you
self-esteem
did.
should go up now.
I know, right? Maybe you didn't know it. The big piece with this is when you have a mental health condition going on, it is a biological influence on you and you don't know it. That's when your self-esteem gets hit the hardest and the most, and chronically, unfortunately, when that's kind of going on. So when you're an ADHD kid and you don't know that you have ADHD, then dang, you're really going to believe what people are telling you. And self-esteem, look, it breaks my heart sometimes when severe symptom sets like that with particularly kids, and they start believing these things, and it's just like, oh my gosh, part of my therapy, like a big percentage of my therapy is building that kid back up so that they have some self-worth and learn to value themselves more and recover in their self-view, because you get crushed, man.
So I got to know something.
No.
No.
What you got to know?
No, this is kind of off topic, but a minute ago
Off topic?
I know. A minute ago I started kind of chuckling because, and I might have to ask Neil, I guess. Did he mention dishes the first time around? I heard the sticks. I heard the bed. I didn't hear dishes. Was dishes the third topic?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I just was curious.
Can you confirm? I guess I should jump out. Can you confirm, Neil, or deny?
I can neither confirm or deny.
He's got no shot. It was, little Johnny, go pick up the sticks, go make your bed, and then go wash the dishes. That's what it was, I'm pretty sure.
I did the first two, and then I was...
You lost the dishes.
I squirreled.
I was so stuck with the sticks in the bed.
That's the only two things I remember. I heard the first two, and the third one I didn't hear.
All right, Neil, quickly take us to where we landed on. How do you actually build self-esteem? You remember anything?
Well, I mean, like I said, the one that stands out that I loved was celebrate your accomplishments, because that's never done anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's just so it's underrated, it's overlooked, like the fact, even little things, like that's the thing. It's like,
well, let's practice this. Since we have last seen you, Mr. Adam Kleininger, what is a little success that you've had? Put him totally on the spot. Let's celebrate.
Go, Adam, go. Go, Adam, go.
I guess I don't really want to talk about that, though.
Well, that was a big success, but that's going to be private.
Something happened at work, but I don't think I had any part of it, but I benefited from it, so I don't really go on successes.
There it is.
This is minor, but you know, like you have like
Neil, please don't ask him if he's fixed his lawnmower.
No, well, it actually has to do with the lawn.
Oh, wow.
So you know how you have a lot to do around the house, and you're like, I never get this all done. So this week I got actually a lot done around the house and the yard. And this is where you're going to think it's funny. Without a riding lawnmower, because my riding lawnmower won't crank right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it won't crank.
A good thing it looks nice in your
it
garage.
Does look nice though.
Oh,
it looks really
God.
good.
All right, I got to tune you in. If you're catching this newer, we were bashing this poor man, Adam, when he was making his old, nasty, dingy, dungy-looking, dungy's a word, by the way, riding lawnmower into a beautifully fixed, painted, it was an immaculate-looking new thing. And now you're saying, you poor man, this doesn't work.
Yep.
Well, we're celebrating that you got a lot done in the yard.
I got a lot done in spite of my riding lawnmower not working.
I'm so sorry, bro.
That's all right.
That sucks.
And later on, after the show, I'm going to tell you the symptoms.
What happened?
That makes no sense. It should crank.
So it's a good point, Neil. Even these simple little things, and we have a very productive day out in the yard, man. I feel good about that, and that builds me up. And you're right, Neil. We forget to celebrate those types of things. I'm going to put a promo out here, and I'm going to celebrate a success just because I want to do the promo. And I think that, honestly, it fits with these shows. So Authority Magazine. You ever hear of Authority Magazine? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I was able to have my proposal to be accepted onto an article that they're working, and it fits just perfectly because the topic is how to believe in yourself, or why is it important to believe in yourself. And so my interview of 20, 22, 5 interviews, or whatever it was, different people in the field in different sectors answer these set of questions. I put a lot of work into this, Adam. I'm not going to lie. And mine comes out, I think, March the 14th or April the 14th.
So you have an article in the magazine?
Yeah, dude. It was like a 5,000-page paper when I was done with it. They ask a lot of questions, and I wrote a lot about it. Kind of proud of it. I'm
I'm
gonna be
assuming
honest
it's
with
going to
you.
be condensed for the magazine.
No, no, they go word for word. Everything you wrote. It's a decent read, man. And there's a lot of good information from multiple different perspectives. So check out authoritymagazine.com, and particularly on the 14th. But the other ones, they're probably good
Do you know
too.
what's
Issue.
It's the
issue?
title of it. No, I don't think it works that way, man. You go to Authority Magazine and you scroll all the way down to what's his name. Silvio is the author, and the title of it is. We'll put a link up on the show, of course.
Can you put a link on?
Why is it important to believe in yourself, and then how to do all of that. Really good content. So I feel really proud and very celebratory about that one. And if they like mine as one of the better ones, they'll put it on BuzzFeed as well, which would be super cool. So it's important to do that, right? This builds yourself up, and it's okay to celebrate things that you do well and let people know. I think we're afraid to be arrogant and pompous with it, and people just get afraid of talking about the good things they did.
Well, I think everybody should. I don't know if it's celebrate, but you need to be allow yourself to feel good about accomplishments.
Yeah, we talk about a feel good file on the show many times over. Other people talk about their jar of success, or I call it the feel good file. Like, I literally have a letter in there that, I do read from time to time, that this lady literally claimed that I saved her life on a mobile crisis team that I worked at right when I was actually in grad school. And she credited that phone call because she was at the end of her rope that day, and she wrote a letter to Human Resources. Ironically, they never even told me about the letter until I was in trouble a year later, and I was going through my personnel file, and I was like, wait a minute, what is this letter? True story, but I do digress. Anything else big that we had on there? We need to move on. Accepting compliments, celebrating yourself, and feeling good about what you do. Accept compliments when people give them to you. That was another big thing, but listen to the show. We took a deeper dive on it. Episode 221, don't take things personally in your marriage. Whew. 3 questions. When do fights tend to occur in marriage? How defensive do we have tendencies with? And with this skill being compassionate and supportive becoming possible, ultimately we're looking for selflessness. So we want to figure out how to do this as a skill, right? And that leads to being compassionate and supportive. Because when you take things personally in your marriage, man, and we all do it, how did that show go, Mr. Robinson?
I thought it was actually a really good show. And I think actually in that show, the interesting take was the Pope. Because of his history, his personality changes. He's been married so long. It was interesting to see his change, because he talked about how he was when he was younger and where he is now. And so seeing him talk about because when he's younger, you are definitely, when you start early in your relationships, you kind of have that tendency to be more defensive. And if you don't really work on the relationship, all it does is, to me, it just builds up. It gets worse and worse and worse. You have to have that, it has to be an even relationship where you have to both want to improve that relationship or improve the other person. And I think that's hard.
I think I told him on the show that I really value his. John's cool. Not value. What's the word I'm looking for? Probably put them on a pedestal a little bit, just because I see the way they interact and I see the way they operate. And his wife Joy is so amazing. They've been married for 41 years. But what he talked about on there was what we need to really focus on and realize is that is a result of a long time in that journey, man. It wasn't always that way. And I think people that idealize is the word I was looking at, other people's relationships that are healthy and doing real well, like right now, like you don't know the trials and tribulations that they've gone through to get to the point where they're doing real well. Right. And John, I think, was pretty honest about that and open about that. Am I correct, Neil?
Yeah, he was.
And I think that just gives us all hope to, like, look, push through the tough times, push through the challenges, learn from things that are going on. And one of the biggest things to learn, like if I could tell newlyweds, almost 100% of the time I'll tell them, like, look, get to a place where you can say anything that you feel or want to say. And secondly, avoid taking things personally, because it makes all the difference in the world. By the way, FYI, like, I suck at this. I suck at this. It's a very, I think it's one of the things Victoria said too, right? She's like, oh my God, yeah, I can't do this.
Yeah, you guys are a little sensitive.
Oh, come on, you withdrawal-based engulfment person over there. We're all sensitive. We're all equally sensitive.
No, you're more sensitive.
Oh my gosh, my family's gonna hear that and they're gonna like blow me up. Thanks, Neil.
See, Neil confirmed it.
Yes,
He don't
exactly.
know nothing. What did I tell you? He's the guy who knows everything and tells us what to do. I'm gonna rescind that. That's gone, bro. No, I do. I take things personally, and it's something that you have to really learn how to manage. You have to learn how to deal with. You should have known me 10, 15 years ago, Neil.
You were worse.
Way. I've come a long way. So what do we do? What do we need to review with that? One of the things I think that is strong about understanding how this works is the result of taking things personally in your marriage, I think, really comes down to laying into a horrible action. And it's one that we all do. Any idea, Adam, what a horrible action is in a marriage that we probably pretty much all do to our spouse?
I was just trying to figure that out when you were talking about it.
When we feel like we've been attacked, or we feel insecure, or when we feel actually the results of taking things personally, having hurt feelings or a sense of not being heard or misunderstood, disregarded, undervalued. Those are a lot of the effects that we talked about in this episode. But what do you think that results in? What do we tend to do next?
Well, some people lash back out.
Gone to say on the right path. We blame our spouse. That's what we do. We end up having a complaint or observing something or feeling some sort of way with, yes, Neil, all of the engulfment-based insecurities that people have as well with sensitivities. I got to fire back.
Well, I can't relate to this because in my past marriage, I mean, everything was her fault. So,
Well, that's
I don't know what you mean by blaming people because everything was her fault. So.
That's a real shot across the bow. Well done there. You have a lot of glee right now, I must point out. This is like bubbling over. No, we blame. We lay down and throw blame at the feet of our spouse when we feel some sort of way. And that probably started feeling some sort of way by taking something personally that we didn't need to do. So that's a nasty cycle that people get into. If we looked at it in detail, we'd find Gottman's 4 horsemen that we've talked about on the show as well. Criticisms, defensiveness, stonewalling, and what's the fourth one? On the tip of my tongue that begins with a C. Contempt. Contempt is the fourth one. Right? So be careful out there when you're dealing with all of these types of things and landing yourself into blame of your spouse for taking things personally. So what's the answer, really? I want to reference the Selflessness show. Episode 214 takes a deep dive on that for sure. And basically kind of doing the opposite of these types of things that we do when we are taking them personally. You want to kind of reverse course to get out of this state that's terrible. Let me see. Yeah, let's move on to episode 222. Boy, that was a little bit of a shit show, 222, wasn't it, Neil?
That was a chaotic progress is what that was, because it was one of those things. There was added value, but yet it ended up being so chaotic just to me, and that's why I text you partway through the show, like, you need to recap because you guys are going down like the bigger struggle, because it was supposed to be about how addiction addiction recovery and the estrangements and the family dynamics is what it was supposed to go down. As the panel started talking about it,
It didn't go that way.
well, the question becomes is what is an addiction? Because you have addiction versus abuse, and there's this whole big thing that, yeah, exactly, I did the same thing. And so that became the conversation about what is technically
So
an
the show
addiction.
was about what is addiction.
I hope
Yes.
you retitled it that way, Neil. The title, I hope, comes the panel battles on what is addiction. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can do that.
Huh?
I can make sure that
Oh, is it actually not out yet? So this is March the 30th. That's right. That's
Right.
coming out Monday, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was, and I wasn't surprised at all. As a matter of fact, if I recall correctly, when we were talking about it, I prefaced that little segment to say, "Look, let's be careful. Let's be brief. I don't want to go down a bunny hole into this, this question because I knew it was coming." And when
that didn't work.
it did not work. No. Which is fine. It's great content because it is a fundamental, basic question. We could have done this whole show on it just for grins and giggles from a non-clinical perspective, Adam. I'm curious how you would say, like, how do you answer that question? What is addiction?
Without using the word addicted. It's a condition where you're stuck on having a certain condition where you have to have something, or you got to do something, or you got to be something, or
Yeah, we just can't talk about this topic enough because there's so much confusion out there about what is addiction and what
got to have
isn't.
something.
Yeah, which misses a lot of what we look for what is addiction. Because I mean, I have to have Steeler football, man. But I am not addicted to Steeler football. Neil, let me just ask you to like rage or roam with your thoughts, because when the mics went off, I feel like you and I were interacting. I mean, it was like there was a lot of energy there.
And part of it is the perceived notion of what an addiction is, and when you're inside, when you have an addiction, you don't really notice what it really is, but yet you see a lot of other things outside of it that you would think are an addiction. You and I talked about, the things that you do that I'm like, I think that's an addiction. You're like, well, it's not because of this. And then I look back, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I have an addiction.
Are we splitting hairs though with the definition of addiction?
Which is kind of interesting
No.
because, and this is a question I have for you, being in therapy, being a therapist since 1995, like when was there a time when the definition of addiction shifted from where it is now to where it used to be? Because like I said, to me, someone who just smokes cigarettes or drinks every once in a while, but they feel like it's irregular. You said someone who like drinks every night doesn't mean that they're addicted to it, or someone who abuses alcohol doesn't mean they're addicted to it. When was that shift? When did it start shifting to that criteria, those 7 or so criteria you had that you guys talked about?
So okay. So I just did a little journey up and down as you were asking that. The criterion really hasn't changed for quite a while. In the 40s and 50s, problems with alcohol were exploding, right? And that's when AA came around. Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson got together, 2 dudes in Akron, Ohio, and created a set of things that they did, 12 steps to attain and maintain sobriety. It's the best thing that works best for most. That's somebody else's quote that I've learned early on before I was even a clinician that I've subscribed to since. So AA is a great option, not the only option out there, but to get well from addictions, I'll put that out there as a plug. But we started to really get those criterions clear in the 60s and 70s and diagnosing addiction, and learned a lot about it. Not a lot has changed since then, really. Not a lot of science has really dove in and changed this. But ironically, that being said, very recently we had a major change in how we see addiction. Now it's an alcohol use disorder. That's what we call it. Hogwash in my mind. I don't mind saying it publicly. because we used to say there's substance abuse, as you said, and the way that I characterize that as being a problem using alcohol or drugs, that it's caused some sort of problem, significant, and you continue to use. That's the way we kind of characterize abuse. But there's a big jump between abuse and the addictions, and we used to call it alcohol dependence, cocaine dependence, and so on. And to answer your question, Adam, really the big marker among 7 or 8 criterion that we look for is a loss of control over your relationship with the substance that creates the euphoria. Now, the easiest way that I've been able to design a definition or an understanding of what a loss of control means is predictability, right? If you have a predictable relationship with your substance of choice, generally, it's probably not addiction because you control it. It's really predictable. But when you really don't know, I might have a couple drinks. I might have a crap ton. I might get home when I planned at 9 o'clock, but it might not be till 2 o'clock in the morning. People around you have no idea what to expect when they come home. They're going to get the Adam who's cool, chill, calm, sober, and whatnot, or they might get that Adam who's already passed out, or they might get that Adam who's like pretty irritated and difficult to be around. You don't know because the substance is in your life. So when you jump over that bar from abuse to addiction is mild, moderate, and severe because in a diseased model sort of way, we know exactly what it progresses like. We know what it looks like now, what it's probably going to be like, and what late stage addiction looks like. It's very predictable in that way. That's why I think that there's a clear reality that you have addiction or you don't have addiction. And boy, I think we screwed that up when we switched over to what we now say is alcohol use disorder. And they've just clumped it all together, Adam. Now it's like, oh, alcohol's not this great thing in your life, so it's a problem. And we're going to call it alcohol use disorder. It's so inadequate. Alcohol use disorder, mild, moderate, and severe. Basically, alcohol use disorder, mild, means that you're abusing the substance like our old definition. And then moderate and severe is kind of what we mean by addiction. The only main thing, Neil, going back to your question that we got, and I'll stop ranting on this, is like we have brain imaging and we've kind of learned a little bit about, the depths of that organ, which is where the addiction seems to be pretty rubbing hard in, we have a lot more to learn about the way the endorphins and the dopamine system works and kind of what happens in that biological way. Going back to your point, Adam, we've learned a little bit more, but we've learned that we don't know crap. We've learned so much more that we have got much more deeper questions about this. But I really think we've spun off into the wrong direction. Sorry for all that. I'm done. Mic drop. Boom. Go.
Do you think that the shift in the name to a disorder is kind of like candy coating it because there's such a negative thing to addiction? So it's one of those things like we want to make these people feel better, so we don't want to call it an addiction.
Probably.
I feel like there's so many things that changed,
Probably.
whether it's to regulate it differently or to make people feel better. There's always that shift when in reality, if you really have an addiction problem, you need to treat it seriously because of, like you said, there's that infection path of when you first start, we see these symptoms, and then if it's not treated, it does have a very negative aspect in your life and those that are around you. And I think there is a seriousness you have to look to that because you do have to address it. And it is kind of, I feel like with a lot of addictions, for a lot of times it's everyone's kind of for the ride and you're kind of going up that roller coaster, and then you don't realize it till you hit the top that finally it lets go.
Listen, if you get doubts about what addiction is and you talk to people that have gone pretty far in their career of using, they'll say, look, I'm a drunk. Okay, that's what it is. I'm a drunk. And the folks that have a long-term career with using, like, dude, they get to places, they do things. It gets to the point because it gets worse and worse and worse with progression. If you don't have addiction, you're not going to get there. Your life is not going to get there. And they get to some horrible places that just make it so obvious that there's definitely something there that's biological for you, then no human sane person is going to get to that point. Now, you can do some pretty stupid things when you're drunk. I mean, I've done that. We've all done that. But chronically and, destructively, to the point of cirrhosis of the liver where you're about to die and you still drink, like there's got to be a biological reality that's driving these folks. Now, earlier in the process, it's a lot less clear. Is it abuse? Is it addiction? I think that's where we get the battle lines drawn and the confusion and, challenging the understandings of addiction. Right? And a lot of my colleagues really, really struggle with this.
But Victoria seemed like she was really because she was kind of like, wait, abuse, addiction, abuse, like what's the difference? And I would be intrigued going back to your statement about the brain, how it handles different things. And we've talked about this before. We even talked about some, sometimes people's bodies change because hormones change, and you get those things, and that can dictate how your body addresses it. The dopamine levels when you look at the differences of,
which is a factor, right? I think a factor of abuse, yeah,
because when you talk about you talk about online video games and the dopamine rush you get from that,
right?
That
especially Chris.
Right.
That what?
StarCraft. It's that StarCraft. You got to watch out for that StarCraft.
Hey, that will wire you, man.
Exactly. But no, it's one of those interesting things because, for one person, chemically, that type of dopamine is going to trigger that euphoria that I need to get more, where someone else might be cigarettes, or it might be, like you said, an opioid or an alcohol. But it goes back to, like you said, it's that physical, that brain composition, how that particular chemical affects that person. Because that's why you can have two people with an addiction in a family where one would be beer or alcohol and the other one might be heroin.
Drug of choice.
Right, exactly. And so, but it's still the same thing. Your body is very susceptible to enjoying a certain type of a chemical that they break down that then leads to that next step, just like everything else.
We don't have time to revisit, but I was super excited that John confirmed that he had heard the digestion process with alcohol at some point in his career, and we haven't learned anything more about that. Neither of us have, he nor I. That you'll have to listen to that, because that to me was the coolest part. I really want to talk about that now, but I don't have time, because I want to say what I say about this a lot of times in what you're saying, Neil. Yeah, we get alcohol, drugs, weed, pot, pills, like that clearly can have addiction with it. And there's only 4 other things. We've talked about it on the show before, but it's the process addictions: eating addictions, gambling addictions, or debting, sex addictions, and the last one is online video gaming addictions. Now, I like games. You just joked at me, right?
Right.
But here's the difference, right? That might help people understand, what is this endorphin jump that you're talking about? I mean, listen, I get this when I play StarCraft. I mean, my buddy and I, Adrian, we talk about it. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so wired." It's like, because you're doing something different than when you're playing video games. Also, by the way, social media is not addictive. I've talked to experts in the field about this. It's online video gaming, meaning you're playing against another human being on a platform on a computer. That's very, very different. Anyway, I feel wired. I feel worked up. Like, I can be exhausted and I go play it and I'm just all lit up. But the difference is there's a choice to make, and I see the clock and I can predict to you pretty much after playing for a half an hour when we will be done playing. It's going to be late, in about 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. We need to stop. And it will stop.
Hoping.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah. And usually on a Friday, when I have a Saturday to recover, before a Sunday and a Saturday, rather, to recover, I struggle on Monday if I do this on a Friday and a Saturday. And so that rarely happens. I don't know when the last time, if it has happened. Again, control, right? Do you see the predictability? Somebody who gets that endorphin rush, they're going to be playing and playing and playing, and they're not really going to be mindful or thoughtful about what their limits were. And before you know it, they've literally spent 12, 16 hours playing this. Online video gaming addiction is like you're playing a lot. You literally stop to eat, sometimes not, and you don't really consider sleep because you give yourself 3 hours before you get back on. It's wild. And it's very different than your average gamer. Because I know you like games too.
I'm thinking of was it Gung Ho? Was it
The car show?
the
Gung Ho?
the movie?
Yeah, in the 80s, Gung Ho.
Remember how they were cutting corners to like not leave the line?
Not leave the line.
Yeah, they had to get so many cars out.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Bolts were left off and parts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm thinking when you're talking about video games, I'm thinking about you cutting corners. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You gotta go. Where's the bottle at? I gotta eat.
You-
I'm playing.
You do cut corners, absolutely. I see your point now. I'm struggling with you for a minute, but I will pull it back to
And that goes back to as you go, you go a little bit further. You take off one bolt, and then you take off two, then you take off three. And next you know, you get the car off the line, and then the whole thing falls apart because you took off too many.
Yeah,
and that's where the addiction comes in. Is the fact
So do you?
it starts with a couple bolts.
Same thing with sex addiction, right? You just getting a little bit of porn. You're just watching a little bit of porn. Hey, I got a little app. That's all I got. And before you know it, you've got an app and you've got dots on your computer and screen, and you're having sex 2 or 3 times a week with different people every time. How does what? It's crazy.
So are you eating when you're playing video games though?
I eat before I play video games, Adam.
He plans it. It's predictable.
We're making sure.
It's predictable.
We're making
Yes.
sure it's not interfering with.
Why would I? Dude, look at me.
nourishment.
Okay, just look at me. I eat. I eat well. Closing thoughts on March. Let's get ourselves out of here, wind down. Cool set of shows, I think. I think we'll have another addiction show. And did I already advertise? I think I did earlier, didn't I?
About
Womanizing.
I think that was on YouTube Live.
Oh, that was on YouTube Live?
So
Well, I'm foreshadowing. If you listen to the shows in April, you will certainly hear a show on womanizing. Unfortunately, the expert Adam will not be here for. I'm sorry, did I?
I'm gonna be questioned about this later tonight.
Yes,
right?
indeed. Well,
What did Chris mean by that?
Yeah, Julie,
Chris.
we have hung out many a time. I'll just say that. Listen, thanks for hanging out with Adam, Neil. You're gonna have to go back behind the curtain. And guys, I hope you have a great week. Stay safe out there in the world. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week.